How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another YouTube video. This one is actually a drip directly from the online course that I have that helps people start and grow their social media marketing agency. And one of the key things that we focus on in the program is actually reprogramming your mind and reprogramming your worldview and your belief system. Because honestly, the one thing that has made me more money than anything else is my self-image, is my perception of myself and my perception of the world, my perception of money, business, what I'm worthy of, what I'm capable of. These sorts of things, they're all just concepts. You are really just, you are not a set being. You can change who you are on almost all fronts. And that's a concept that not a lot of people are really familiar with, and it scares a lot of people. And in this module and in this sort of drip from the course that you're going to see today, I'm going to show you basically how to declare war on who you are currently. And the rest of the modules in the program, we talk about how to really continue to maintain that war and ultimately win it and become a different person completely, someone more capable of the business and goals that you want to achieve. So one of my favorite ideas is that, who you are now is not capable of doing the things that you want to do in life. Really, the first thing you have to do is change who you are, and then the things that you want to do in life come more naturally. So this is a drip from the course. Hopefully you enjoy it, and I will see you in the next video. Watch this in full. Again, the course is a fairly expensive program, and so, I really kind of I tumbled over this in my head quite a bit, whether I should drip this module or not, but I figured it'd probably be helpful for a lot of people, and honestly, why not? I want to show you how high quality the program is and how much attention to detail that we give in the program, that I give in the program. And I want to just give you a taste of what it's like to be like on the other side of it, and also bring a lot of value to sort of your mind game, your mindset game. A lot of entrepreneurs talk about mindset. They talk about how your mindset's the only thing that matters, all this stuff, but nobody really actually addresses it. Nobody actually really addresses, what is actual scientific, mindset. What are you supposed to develop? How do you actually have a good mindset? What is a good mindset? And in the course, we talk about that and how to achieve it. And this isn't just my opinion. This is backed by science. This is backed by, thousands of years of human psychological research, and it's backed by my, hundreds of hours of research and tens of thousands of dollars of money spent on the topic. And I really just wanted to drip this for you because two reasons. One, I want to show you how high quality the program is and hopefully encourage you to invest. And second of all, I wanted to show you just how crucial your worldview, your mindset is, and help you on your journey to becoming a new person more capable of, the goals that you have. So that being said, hope you enjoy and watch it in full. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Check out the link in the description for the full program, and hopefully you enjoy the video. See ya. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the mindset section of the six-figure marketing consultant program. This is module 1, and I just want to preface this training by saying, look, if there is any one thing that I can do for the people who invest into this program, it is to help shift their perception of money and of the self, okay? And frankly, nothing else matters anywhere near as much as these two topics, and that's why I want to focus on these topics in this training more than anything else on a very deep level. Now, of course, I'm going to give you everything else. We're going to build in technical training. You've got the coaching calls, hours upon hours upon hours of coaching calls, plus my exact systems and even some funnels that you can build for yourself and all kinds of really helpful things like that. But to be frank with you, none of that matters, which probably sounds horribly self-defeating considering you've spent the amount of money you've spent and now you're in the program. But I want you to understand that the biggest battle that you have is a you versus you battle. And so there's sort of a hierarchy of man's existence, and at its lowest level, it's man versus nature, man versus the elements, right? And at the highest level, it's man versus himself. And especially in Western civilization, our only enemy is ourselves, because we have everything we need. We have food, we have water, we have shelter, we have love. So it is really just us versus us. And that's why this module is called Declaring War on the Self. This is going to be some pretty crazy stuff. I'm going to really challenge your worldview. I'm going to make you question a lot of things that you thought were just inherent and true, or inherent and true. And I'm probably going to offend you as well. And so be ready for that, because this is not light listening. This is not light learning. This is very serious stuff. And, this alone is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to me, and soon to be millions of dollars, with where my business is going. I'm recording this at the beginning of 2020. It is the early January 2020. And, I can honestly say that the things that I'm going to teach you in this mindset training is the sole reason why I'm at where I'm at as an entrepreneur, mixed in with the technical, of course, right? And I really do believe it's 90% your head, your mindset, how you view the world, how you view money, how you view yourself in relation to those things. Then like 10% like technical, like how to onboard clients and how to invoice them and these sorts of things. Okay, so I really want you to understand the importance of this training, not neglect it, and go through it in full. I wasn't even planning on spending this much time talking on this slide, but I felt like it was really important for me to preface this training, because truly, if I just included this training and then the coaching calls, this could be a $5,000 or $6,000 program, easy. And I mean that, and that's not just me trying to justify the price of the program or anything. This could easily be upwards of a 5-figure priced program, just with this, okay? And this is, thousands of hours of learning. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars into coaches and other programs that speak to the psychology of the self, because I think it's such an important element of being a successful entrepreneur, nonetheless a successful man in a person. Okay, so this module is called Declaring War on the Self. Okay, so it's a really, really interesting title. You are a certain way, and you can declare war on that way. And you can say, I'm done, I'm sick of that way, and I want to be a different way. And you can literally, physically change who you are. You can be a different person. You're not a static person. I'm going to talk about that in this module. So what we're covering, let's actually dive in here. What we're going to cover, declaring war on the self and massacring inner demons. So we're going to talk about, how to basically start this inner battle and sort of initiate a proper war to get rid of the demons that you struggle with. So I'm sure you've noticed as an entrepreneur, maybe you've gone through other courses before. If this isn't your first one, I'm sure you've noticed you can go through courses, you see all the material, you see how it could all work, but you just don't do it. And nothing ever happens. Or maybe you've invested a lot of money into coaches or whatever. Maybe you haven't done anything online before. Maybe you've not spent any money. This is the first money you've spent. If that's the case, I'm honored. But you're going to notice that with this program, you're going to see all these theories, see all these technical things, and see all these applicable ideas, and it just won't work. And to be honest with you, this is why. Okay? This is why. The next point is how to win the war we've declared, and also shifting our beliefs. So we're declaring a war, and then we're going to have a map to actually win the war. Okay? And this is scientifically proven stuff. This isn't woo-woo. This isn't hippie stuff. This is, and I'm going to back this all with science, how to psychologically reprogram yourself. Because you look at my story, it's an important thing that you understand my story. I was an insecure, shy, homeschooled kid. And, I had like 2 friends growing up. I played bunches of video games. I didn't know the first thing about I never had any money in my bank account. Like literally, I remember having $400 in my bank account at 16 and thinking I was like rich. Okay. And I remember blowing all my money. I remember having like so few friends that I thought everybody was against me. I thought the world was against me. I didn't realize that I was the problem. There's all kinds of just negative things. And so I want to talk about how to win the war and how to shift your beliefs so that you attract that victory, okay? Next is opening your eyes to a new reality. So I really want to shift the way that you view the world. Like shift your entire paradigm in this one module, okay? I want to shift everything that you thought was real and challenge it completely from the ground up, okay? So this is some serious training. Honestly, this is some serious training. And I want this community, this 6-figure marketing consultant community to contain many 7-figure earners, okay? And you're not going to get even to 6 figures. If you're a starting entrepreneur, trust me. Please trust my word that this is the most important stuff you can apply, okay? I'm going to recommend some books as well, so it's not just this training. I've gone through a lot of other trainings where they don't give any other references, but I'm going to give you tons of references, tons of other books to go through to begin this study of, the mind and how it relates to business and money, which is honestly your new favorite study. It should be from now on, okay? And lastly, we're going to hit a point called man is defined by his standards, not his aspirations. So if you study psychology at all, you know that people are more afraid to lose than they are motivated to gain, okay? So when you have a standard and a way of living, for lack of a better term, you're going to fight like hell to not breach whatever standard it is that you've set. And our goal in this training is basically to say, all right, what's our standard? What's the minimum what's the lowest we're willing to go? And how do we raise that? And you'll see that apply in your business as well. On a very simple sort of degraded level, it could be like, oh, you're at $4,000 or $5,000 a month, but you want to be at $20,000. Well, the problem is on some level, you're comfortable where you're at, and so you're staying there. And so I want to break that comfort and shift your standards and destroy your goals and turn them into standards. So it's going to be a really, really powerful module. I want you to watch it in full, take notes, and follow the action items that we'll talk about at the end, okay? So first of all, declaring war on the self and massacring inner demons. It's not changing this slide. Give me a second. Not sure why it's not changing the slide. Apologies. I'll just go into myself. So declaring war on the self and massacring inner demons. So first of all, we are our own enemies. So James Allen, author of As a Man Thinketh, which is an incredible book and everybody should read it, says something amazing. He says, all our battles exist only inside of ourselves. There are no external problems, only problems we've created in our heads, which then influence the world around us and the way we perceive it. And so the truth is, and this is a hard truth to accept, that all the problems that you have in your life are problems either because A, you recognize them as problems, or B, you've made them out to be a problem. Or you've created the problem because of something in your head. So if you have relationship issues, it's likely because you yourself, are not a good person at relationships, right? If you have money issues, you don't deserve more money. You are bad with money, right? So this is a great book. Read this book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Seriously important stuff. Every battle that exists in our lives starts in our head. And once you realize that, then you realize that the most true, important battle is the one that's going on in your head. And so that's why we're declaring war. There is a light and a dark force in our head. And if you are, a biblical thinker like myself, a Christian, you know that, this is represented, by like Satan and God. And these sort of polar opposites. There's a light and there's a dark. And this happens in our head all the time. Every single thought we have is either headed towards the light or headed towards the dark. There's no static thought. There's no middle ground. We're either growing or we're shrinking. Okay? Next point is not woo-woo. So in this mindset training, I'll be providing science-backed methods to change your self-image, which will then ultimately affect your reality. I'm not going to make you take any drugs or start speaking to the universe or anything crazy. I want you to accept this simple truth. Who you are affects your reality, and ultimately you control who you are. And I want to show you how to do that. Next is nothing overly spiritual. So I'm not a spiritual guru. I'm not trying to be overly bombastic or sound overly woo-woo for the sake of it. This is truly powerful content and the same stuff that changed my life permanently. Okay? And lastly is a fair warning. This training will be highly, highly convicting. Aristotle talks about the burden of consciousness. Once you internalize that you're 100% in charge of every element of your life, you'll no longer be allowed to point fingers or place blame on others. Everything's on you now. And this will be a heavy weight to carry, one that will either break you completely or make you a true master of your life. And I encourage you to not continue this training if you wish to continue to have the bliss that pairs naturally with ignorance. And it's okay if you want to remain who you are. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? There's nothing wrong with being comfortable with where you're at unless you say publicly that you want to be somewhere else and you don't do anything about it, right? If you're complaining or you're comparing yourself to other people, that's when it's a problem. There's nothing wrong with contentment. If you're happy where you're at, stay there, okay? That's totally fine. But if you want to be somewhere else and you claim to want to be somewhere else, but you're not actively working towards it or you're not there already, then that's when there's a problem, okay? So that's declaring war on the self and massacring inner demons. Our inner demons effectively can be considered our false beliefs and the things that we carry around with us that keep us from doing the things that we know we have to do, which could be like, just simple work in our business. It could be a phone call we have to make, and it can even be small things like, bills that we're behind on. Like anything that is like any ball and chain is going to keep you from taking the action you have to take in your business. Okay, so I recommend settling all your disputes. Like if you have an issue with somebody, settle it. Talk to them. If you have an issue with the government, settle it. Do your friggin' taxes. Be on top of these things because you don't want balls and chains holding you back. Okay. So next is how to win the war we've declared and shifting our beliefs. Okay, it's not changing again. Let me go ahead and do this. So how to win the war we've declared and shifting our beliefs. So the role of our beliefs. So there's certain things that you believe about yourself inherently. I'm not talking physical things like height, eye color, or other unchangeable, maybe biological characteristics. I'm talking beliefs regarding the things in our control. These beliefs regarding the things you control, which is almost everything but genetics, determine how we control them, which determines what we get back from them. I hope that makes sense. So if you believe that you are a bad salesman, you're not going to make sales, okay? If you believe that you are not a good friend, self-fulfilling prophecy, you're not going to be a good friend. If you believe that and this is a hard one, this is a really, really challenging one, and I don't mean to offend anybody with this, but if you believe that you have a mental issue, like depression or something like that, then even if you do have it clinically diagnosed, you're going to stay there forever. It's never going to solve because you just walk around saying, my name is, Alyssa, and I have depression. And you're saying that, and you're drilling it into your head, and you're never going to, there's no way to change that. And then people take these personality type, like online tests, like the Enneagram and the Myers-Briggs personality test, if you're familiar. And basically, these are tests that tell you, like, what type of person you are, like what group you exist within. And often it segregates you into, like, extrovert or introvert. Or like, it segregates you into like, oh, you are the type with empathy or you lack empathy. And when you read those things on the screen, the scary thing is, you're looking to that for a source of who you are. And when you believe those things, that's how you behave. It's not the other way around. It's not, who you are is who you are and it's a given. It's what you think you are makes up who you are. And you can change how you think you are. So our beliefs are such an internalized thing, all right? So here's an example for a business. So in Psycho-Cybernetics, which is another great book for the students of this program. So Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, okay? Amazing book. And I have all my clients and students, one-on-one coaching students, read this thing. The author tells a story of a man stuck at $50K a year with his earnings at a sales job. Even when he got a commission increase, he couldn't break this. And they then gave him 2 times more leads, and he stayed at $50,000. Why is that? Well, he identified as a $50,000 a year man, and literally, without realizing it, self-sabotaged himself to stay there, no matter what. Once he broke this, he was able to make $200K a year within only a year of internalizing his new identity. So when you think you are a certain way, you're going to self-sabotage yourself from growing out of it. Okay? It's guaranteed. Like, you'll notice this sort of internal thermostat. And maybe you've heard this before if you're into self-image psychology. Everybody kind of walks around with an internal thermostat. Like you are this way. You're no more, you're no less. Sometimes you creep up, sometimes you creep down, but you end up being that way at the end of the day. And so our goal in this training is sort of to take that internal thermostat and just crank it up. Just make you hotter than ever, raise your standards completely, and make you a new person completely. Because then you'll start to bounce around that new standard. Like, you can think about this as well. What's the number in your bank account, for example, that once it gets to that point, you start to panic? It's so low, you start to panic. What's the number that it's high enough that you start to feel abundant and you kind of spend a little bit more and you make better business decisions? You have those numbers. You can map those in your head. And your thermostat's kind of the average of those numbers, right? Just like with relationships or life or any area where we have a fluctuation. So when we identify as a certain person, we stay there. We self-sabotage ourselves, and we stay there. So how beliefs are formed. So there's different types of belief-forming systems. But the 2 most important things to understand are, 1, environmental beliefs, which is the environment you grew up in, and self-created beliefs, which is the thoughts you choose to accept. So environmental beliefs are like things that people said to you. They're things like who your parents are, because often we end up modeling our parents. Things like who our friends are who our associates, our business associates, our work associates. They're like what our teachers said about us if you went to public school or college. Things like this is environmental beliefs, like the things you heard or the natural way you compared yourself to others. Maybe if you grew up in a more, in a much richer area than some people, maybe on a financial scale, naturally your standard is like, $800,000 a year or something. Like that's your standard. You're not going to breach that, because and you'll notice that a lot of parents pass down their standards to their kids. That's just how it is. And then self-created beliefs, it's just the thoughts you choose to accept. So this could be things that others said about you that then you repeated in your head and internalized. And we'll talk about that in this module. We'll talk about the actual part of your brain that's in charge of these things. So here's the secret that successful know. Every bit of success you'll ever have starts in your head. It starts with a thought. So like it could be an environmental thought or a self-created thought. Because a lot of people think that we take in inputs from, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, or, we take in inputs, feelings, and then we form thoughts based on those feelings. But the reality is we can actually create thoughts. We can create perspectives. We can create opinions about ourselves that are totally new and haven't been introduced to us from anybody else, and then begin to accept those as reality, right? So it starts with a thought that turns into an emotion, which turns into a belief, which programs your RAS, which is called your reticular activating system, which is basically the biggest nervous system in your body. It goes directly from your brain down your spine, out into your hands, your feet, your legs, your torso, your neck, and this is what's really in charge of how you respond to stimulus. Okay, it's like your nervous system basically, but the more conscious part of your nervous system, which will then look for proof of this belief in your life, which is called confirmation bias, which we'll talk about. So when you have a belief, that belief programs your nervous system, the part of your nervous system that's in charge of response. And the reality is when you have a belief, you're actually looking for proof of that belief in your life. And so this is where your thoughts are so powerful, because if you think something enough, you're going to begin to believe it, and you're going to look for proof of it, which is just this feedback loop. It just compounds. That belief gets more and more and more strong and harder to break and more built into you. And so this is a long-term thing. This isn't an overnight thing that we're doing. Shifting our beliefs. It's a very long-term thing because it takes reprogramming ourselves. But then it turns into a core conviction, which creates who you are from the ground up. Okay? So the things you think turns into emotions, turns into a belief, and that programs your RIS, which will then look for proof of this belief in your life, which is called confirmation bias. And you can Google, there's great books on hacking confirmation bias. A lot of really great people who specialize in confirmation bias reprogramming, which then turns into a core conviction, creating who you are from the ground up completely, okay? That's a secret that's successful now. That alone is worth the price of admission to this course if you begin to internalize it, okay? Seriously, I 100% mean that. So that's how to win the war we've declared and begin to shift our beliefs. And so here's winning the war. This is a visual of the RIS reprogramming thing that I showed, and this is a printable that is available for download, and you can print it out, hang it up on your wall, or maybe frame it somewhere where you can see it, okay? This is winning the war. So I'm going to read this text here. It says, by persisting in a thought about ourselves or our environment, we create emotion regarding the thought. This emotion is then transmitted to our RAS, which controls our reaction to stimulus, allowing for confirmation bias to be leaned in our favor. So if we're having a positive thought that helps us, confirmation bias, which looks for proof that what we believe is true, we want that to be working in our favor, not against our favor. From there, we begin to believe the original thought to be true, seeing its effects played out in our life as it affects our reality, the state of our life, our business, relationships, habits, etc., which then inspires conviction. And conviction is an internalized belief that takes a long time and lots of proof to develop. This then cycles back around and allows for more thoughts to come about that relate to or reaffirm our conviction, continuing the loop endlessly. And it's a loop that can go up and up and up and up, better and better and better and better, or worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay? I believe the next slide is... No, it's not this one. That's all right. But I think in one of these slides in the mindset section, I talk about the feedback loop and how you are a loop and how the loop goes up or it goes down. And we'll talk more about that. But print this out, hang it on your wall, frame it. Really important stuff. Probably the most important thing. Honestly, like beginning to shift how you view yourself. Okay. And if you want some practical examples of how to shift your thoughts, honestly, do some research on proper affirmations. So how to actually create good affirmations. And that was training I was going to include in the program. But to be frank, I've completely shifted how I view affirmations recently according to a new coach that I've hired. And so I want to make sure that I do that right. So I may add a new module soon regarding that. But, one of the best habits you can establish is waking up every morning and writing out 5 to 10 things that you either believe about yourself or you want to make true about yourself, right? And you'll see a massive shift in your life very quickly. It'll be, 3 or 4 months, but you'll begin to see a massive shift. So opening your eyes to a new reality. So this is the new paradigm that we're going to operate from. This is how we're going to view the world from now on, okay? It won't shift. I don't know why it does that. So opening your eyes to a new reality. Everything you are today, you created. So in order for you to experience any level of change through this program, you must accept the fact that you are who you are today because of the actions you've taken, the thoughts you've persisted in, and the beliefs you've formed, all of which can be influenced or changed. You're in charge. Unhappy? Your fault. Happy? Your job to maintain. And when you internalize this was huge for me. This was absolutely huge, to realize that I'm completely in charge. Nothing in my life is accidental. Nothing in my life came because random chance. It's all there because of things that I did, said, committed to, thoughts I persisted in, programming my RAS, my, reinstilling confirmation bias and looking for proof of these things in my life, okay? And that's also a part of why, recently I was in Amsterdam for New Year's, and I purchased a new Rolex watch. It was a $9,000 US dollar Rolex. And people are like, why on earth would you do that? It seems like such a waste. And I'm not going to go on this tangent too long. But first of all, I'll make my money back. It's an investment. The value actually grows. And second of all, it's a reminder that I am an established business person. Because often you'll find yourself questioning and having this kind of imposter syndrome. And confirmation bias doesn't always work for you. So you need little reminders around. It's also why I got the nice apartment. It's why, I surround myself with other winning entrepreneurs. I need constant reminders so that my confirmation bias is always filled. It's always constantly reaffirming my belief that I'm a successful, worthy entrepreneur and business owner, right? So here's incoming thoughts and outgoing thoughts. So the things we say to ourselves are outgoing thoughts. So ever wonder why two people with the same nervous system, same genetics, same home environment, maybe either even twins, can become two completely opposite people? Let's say they had the same teachers. Say they even had the same friend group. Let's say they had everything, same diet, same literally everything. But the reality is they say different things about themselves and accept different things others say about them to be true. They accept different incoming and outgoing thoughts. So when you say something about yourself, truly, your words have power. There's the idea, biblically, maybe you've heard this, your tongue is your rudder, right? The rudder of a ship is this tiny, tiny little piece of wood on the back of a ship. Doesn't matter how big the ship is, just a tiny plank of wood on the back of a ship sticking in the water that turns left or right steers the entire ship, okay? Your words control who you are, and so what you say about yourself is going to become true. So, self-depreciating, thoughts. And I have this bad habit. I'll share this with you. I part of my humor when I'm hanging with, close friends of mine is to kind of be a little stupid, be a little goofy. And I'm always like, I'm such an idiot. And I say that. But every time I say it, I'm now aware of how damaging that is. Even if it's humorous. I shouldn't say that. I should say, I'm goofy. The word idiot has this kind of, sadness to it. It's got this kind of doubt to it, right? So let's move on. The role of speech. The part of your brain that speaks is forced to piece together the concept of what you're portraying in speech. By saying something, you're stacking weights in favor of the belief that the thing you're saying assumes. Sorry, that's a really loud truck out there. This is the general idea behind reading affirmations, right? So when you're reading an affirmation, you're basically forcing yourself to state out loud something that you either want to be true about yourself or that you believe is true, okay? So, for example, when I say, I'm an idiot, oh, I'm such an idiot. I literally started saying about halfway through last year, I said, I'm going to be a multiple 5-figure monthly entrepreneur this time next year. I just know I'm going to do it. And it wasn't a cocky thing. It wasn't an arrogance thing. It was I know I can do it. And I began to internalize that. And then I began to look for proof of it. Because I heard it so much, I began to look for proof. The reality is, our brains begin to believe what we hear often. Like, our brains are kind of stupid. You know, if we just hear something enough, we begin to believe it. It's that simple, okay? And lastly is confirmation bias. So if you believe something to be true about yourself, so example, I'll never be successful in business, you're going to look for proof of this. So our negative thoughts hold more weight than we think. One negative thought could turn into a lifetime of toil. Consider all thoughts to be seeds you plant in your brain to then harvest the fruits they bear down the line. Even thoughts of other people, thoughts of how you view everything is how that thing is treated, which then affects the way it influences your life. So for example, I could view, let's say you had this perception that business is bad, money's bad, you know, well, you're never going to make any money because you don't want to be a bad person, right? Let's say you had this idea that, you know, maybe the opposite of the spectrum. Maybe you think, you know, being anti-money and anti-capitalism and being like a hippie is bad. Well, then you're never going to have a balanced viewpoint on money. You're going to think money is like this holy thing, you know? You want to kind of stay balanced. And so consider all thoughts to be seeds you plant in your brain. Every thought you have about yourself, every thought you have about your environment, all seeds that are then sort of, I guess you can say, grown, you know, through confirmation bias, through your RAS, and they then become fruits that you can pick later. Whether they're bad or good fruits is kind of up to the thought. So I think we're coming up on the last one. Man is defined by his standards, not his aspirations. This is an equally important sort of module here, or point. I don't know why it doesn't shift from there. So here's what most people will teach you. Want to do great things? Set big goals. Be bold. Want to make $1 million? Aim for 10 million. And this is off by a long shot. This isn't true. You want to ask yourself, who is a high achiever in an arena who idolizes the success of others at the same time? Not many. So, like, what does LeBron James, does LeBron James look at other basketball players and, like, drool over their success? Like, like, he just doesn't do that, right? Does, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, look at other, high-performing business owners and, like, oh, my goodness, how did they, how did they do it, Or let's even make it on a micro level. Let's make it a very, very small example. Maybe you go to a public school and you have like a football team. Does the quarterback on that football team, do this? Do you see any of the high-performing business influencers that maybe you follow doing this? Like, we just don't do it. We can be proud of their success and happy for it, but we're not idolizing it. And this is an example of how, big goals shouldn't be your... That's not the point. Big goals are not the point. It is standards that move you forward. So how to adopt a standard? We don't always fight to achieve goals, but we'll fight like starving wolves over scraps to maintain our standards. So what's the lowest you're willing to go? Raise this bar. This will move you forward far faster than setting high goals. And you'll begin to see that, like, when you set the standard, like my standard, and it's as simple as deciding, like right now you can decide to do it. It's just a simple decision. My standard, $10,000 a month. Like, I'm not going to do any less than that. Or like my standard, you can be like at the gym. My standard is, maxing out, my weight to body weight ratio. Like, I'm going to fully max out the strength of my body. I'm going to get my heart rate up to this level every time I'm doing cardio. And that's just my standard. It's not a goal. It is my standard. So next is avoiding disparities. When one area of our life is successful but another isn't, this is a disparity that will force us to reconsider everything. So when we raise the standard in one area, it has to be raised in our whole life, okay? This is the point I'm making. We must raise the standard of everything we do in life. Personal, business, health, everything. And this will allow your standards to be internalized and make you a greater operator in every area of your life. So you don't just grow in business. You'll find this to be true. You don't just grow in business. I've found that as well as growing in business, I've grown with my faith, I've grown with my family, I've grown in my relationships, I've grown in how effective I am on a day-to-day basis with everything I commit to. Every project I'm a part of, I'm a better member of that project now. I'm a better leader, I'm a better speaker, I'm a better everything because I'm raising my standard for myself. It's not just business. You got to recognize this, that you are a standard. That is who you are. You are a standard. And that standard leaks out into every area of your life. And so really, you're not just trying to raise your standard of how much money you want to make. You're trying to raise your standard of who you are. And so there's like a direct correlation between people who maybe have like relationship issues and people who are bad in business. It's just a direct correlation. Guarantee it. If somebody's business isn't succeeding, often I can assume now, because I understand these concepts, when I see somebody doing something poorly in business, it's often the case that there's other poor things going on in their life, like bad relationships, bad dietary habits, bad whatever. It's just the truth, because how they do anything is how they do everything. And so your standards kind of define how you do everything, right? It's like when I see like a guy being like short with his friends, like being kind of cruel, being kind of rude, I can assume he's also like bad in the workplace. I can assume his bank account is pretty low, you know? Or I've seen like married men kind of be like a little cruel to their wife, like a little short with their wives, you know, kind of, treating them a little poorly. And it's not unoften that they also have other areas of their life that are struggling because their standard is low in that arena. Okay? So avoid disparities. Don't just get better in business. Don't isolate yourself from your family. Don't become like a social isolate. You don't want a bunch of money and nothing else. Like, that's not the goal of this program, okay? We're trying to raise our standard as people and as individuals. We're trying to be better men and women. And that will make you better in business, okay? Because your business is a reflection of who you are. Your business is never bigger or smaller than you. It is an exact mirror of who you are. And when you internalize that, growth becomes easy. It becomes destined. You become destined to grow, okay? So we're going to end this with some action items. We're going to dive into the rest of the mindset training here as we move on forward with the course. So here's some action items. I don't know why it's making me do this, but I'm just going to, whatever, I don't care. Action 1, print out the printable slides and hang them so we have one printable slide that is the loop, the thought to emotion to RAS to belief to conviction loop. And action item 2, spend 45 to 60 minutes reflecting on your learnings and create an action list of your own. So I would encourage you actually with this to identify some areas of your life that you'd like to increase the standard in general. Like, honestly, I'm not even kidding. As I've grown in business, I have grown in every area. It's not just business. That's the thing that people don't realize. Like, it's such an interesting thing. People look at entrepreneurs and they're like, oh man, they're so good with money. But no, they're not just good with money. These are effective people that have gone into business. It's not they're good in business. It's they are sharp, effective, wise thinkers that then accept a business venture. And you're going to see that, the people who are I've never met a self-made seven-figure earner who isn't an amazing, incredible, interesting person that I would like invite to my wedding. Every single one of them. They're all just amazing people, so you got to understand that. Then action item number 3, go to the Facebook group with your findings and ask some hard questions. Maybe point out some areas of your life that you feel like you're slacking in and see what other people have done. Ask some hard questions regarding the material in this module. If there's anything that stood out to you, maybe share that. See what other people's experience have been with applying it, and make some friends. Be a part of that community. Look, if you're not in the Facebook group and being active in the Facebook group, you're just not a part of this course. Okay, I just don't consider you truly in the program. And even when people ask for refunds and I've seen that they haven't done anything in the Facebook group, I say, look, I'd be happy to give you your money back, but honestly, like, you haven't even started. Okay, that's a really important thing. So, that being said, those are the action items. Hopefully this module was valuable to you. That's the start of the mindset program. Effectively, in this module, we talked about declaring war on the self, understanding self-image psychology. What you think becomes what you believe, becomes who you are, becomes the action. The actions you take becomes the state of your life, which then reinforces your thoughts. It's a big old loop. Go ahead and Google, when you get the chance, RAS, the reticular activation system. Do your own research on that and sort of prove your own theories. Be a scientist here, okay? Read the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And then lastly, go back through this module if it was helpful for you. Watch it multiple times over. Watch this whole mindset training, honestly, multiple times throughout the year. Because it's just good reminders. And this isn't a, self-righteous thing. Honestly, none of this material is fully mine. This is stuff that I've learned from tons of other people, okay? And so, honestly, when I'm stuck in business, I go back to this stuff. I don't go back to my business. I don't go back to technical. I go back to this stuff, okay? That's where you need to get. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next module, Module 2 of the Mindset Training.